I wanted to talk to you very briefly about the cyclone that's coming here in southeast Queensland over the next few days. Some people are getting really scared about it. Some people are really kind of nonchalant about it. And some people are kind of relaxed about it. For me personally, I've been through cyclones a lot growing up. I used to live in North Queensland in cyclone country. So this is kind of just, one of those things that I know what to do to prep for and what will be will be. But I wanted to talk about the symbolic energy of a cyclone. And it's not going to be surprising, the kind of things I talk to you about here today, but I want you to take a moment to use it as an advantage of talking to yourself about, what this means in terms of your own transformation and your own energy shift within yourself and your business. Because cyclones are all about both destruction and renewal. They're very much like a fire that you often see on the news, where there's this renewal that comes from the destruction. The same goes for a cyclone. There is so much power in the wind that comes from a cyclone, but not just the power of the wind, but the pressure. It's the hectopascals in a cyclone that actually make it a cyclone, as opposed to just a storm. So a lot of people have been talking about the strength of the winds and how, that's not going to be a big deal. But if you imagine that with the pressure behind it, it can have a huge effect on housing and people and trees and all the things. And you just have to look at the coast at the moment and what it's doing to the waves and the water out there at the moment. And, there's a lot of pressure behind that. And cyclones from a symbolism perspective are all about transformation. They're all about, changing, how you are approaching your life and how you respond to disruption, and whether you prepare for it or whether you freak out or whether you're accepting of it, all those kind of things. And so I would invite you to reflect on how are you responding to the cyclone if you're in southeast Queensland, and how is that aligning itself with how you're responding in your business right now. For me, I'm in a state of flux with my business because I'm having to pivot and doing a lot of different things at the moment. So I have to kind of move nimbly through, a number of different things I'm trying to do. And I can't stay stuck in one certain thing in my business, because otherwise I'll just stay in paralysis and I won't be able to move. And I find that I've been doing the same for the cyclone. I haven't freaked out, but I know that I need to take it seriously, and we just do the things and then we get on with it. And I would invite you to have a look at how you're responding to both cyclone and business, and maybe get some learnings from that. But it's one of those things, isn't it, that if you have heaps of pressure and tension, things change in your life, in your business, in your world, and even you personally. From my experience, transformation does not happen without tension and without pressure. It just doesn't. You're not ever motivated to want to do things differently if you don't have that tension and that pressure. And it's an unnecessary evil, I guess you could say, even though it's not an evil, but it's an unnecessary, it's an unwanted kind of pressure that at the time we feel like, I don't want any more of this. But when you get through it and you're on the other end of it, you realize, well, I needed that in order for me to change what I was doing with X, Y, or Z. You see this a lot with people who are trying to, kick a habit or do a different, lifestyle change with their eating or something. They usually have to hit a personal low of some kind in order for them to realize that they want to change. Now, in business, it's very different. With business, we're constantly, in a state of doing the things that we know repetitively have worked before. And so we keep doing that, don't we? And at some point, we kind of get to a point where, those things aren't working anymore. And we don't often change the tact of what we're doing because we think, well, if I just keep going the way that I'm going, then it'll work itself out. The reality is that at the moment in business, things are changing a lot in consumer spending, how people are reacting, 30 plus touch points in business these days, no matter what industry you're in, especially so, probably even more so in terms of touch points if you are in a high trust required industry. And so the old ways of how you were doing things aren't going to cut it as they once were. And I get it. I get the frustration with that because I've had that frustration myself. I'm a creature of habit sometimes, even though I might look like I'm a bit flighty and a bit out there because of my neonness. But I like consistency. And business has not been like that over the last few years. And so the cyclone is a really good analogy of embracing the chaos, embracing it and seeing what magic comes from that. And I would encourage you to even approach the cyclone with this anticipation of curiosity of, well, what could be possible if this was to just blow away all of the stuckness and, routine and trends that I'm just following, and I just keep hitting my head against a brick wall with these things. What could I invite in that could be different, right? What else could I invite in that this cyclone could just, push through all of the unwanted stuff and bring space for new possibilities? And that's how I would like to invite you to see the next week that's going to happen with cyclones, like the one that's coming. I want to say that when I went through one of the worst cyclones up in North Queensland, it lasted 6 hours. It lasted 6 hours of about 200 kilometers an hour winds hitting the house. It was so scary. And I want to say that sometimes the most intense pressure, being pushed into a corner can create the most amazing disruptive shifts in your business and in your life. I see this when I do a lot of my strategy work with clients, is almost like going, well, what do you actually want to do here? You have to make a choice. You can't get around it. You're going to have to make a choice here. And we're going to make the choice, and then we're going to shift and move with it. And that's what I would invite you to look at doing over the next few weeks of after this cyclone and beyond it. How can you actually invite in disruption so that it can just push out all the old stuff that doesn't need to be there anymore and welcome in some new energy, some new strategies, some new tools, some new resources, some new people, some new, states of mind, anything that you need in order for things to be different. This is beautiful, transformative energy that's coming forward, as scary as it can be. And yes, it is actually, it can be life-threatening in some situations if people are in really bad situations with cyclones. But beyond that, thinking through when you are safe and when you are secure where you are, you could actually invite in the possibilities, especially if the power is out. There's lots of time for reflection. That would be my one thing for you over the next week. Anybody in Southeast Queensland, if the power is out, that's your opportunity to take some time out and really think about what you want in the next few months. What do you want to bring in more of? And let's have more of that, please.